The silence in the Utah Valley University event hall was the kind that comes after a storm. It was a silence that rang with phantom echoes, a stark contrast to the chaos that had erupted just hours before. On the surface, the story was tragically simple: a shooting at a political event, a security team that failed, and a public left searching for answers. But in the digital age, the simplest stories are often the most deceptive. This is not the story you were told. This is the story unfolding behind the redacted reports, the sealed evidence, and the carefully constructed narrative that collapsed under the weight of a single, unedited frame. This is an investigation into a lie and the unsettling question of who built it and why. The first images to hit the airwaves were grainy, shaky, and perfectly edited for maximum impact. The clip, a mere 23 seconds long, showed Charlie Kirk at the podium, the low hum of his speech suddenly punctuated by a sharp, percussive pop. The camera, focused on the stage, captured his two private security guards. For a critical, heart-stopping second, they appeared to freeze. Their bodies went rigid, their hands stalled near their jackets, their faces, though blurred, seemed locked in a mask of inaction. Then, the screen dissolved into a blur of screaming, ducking, and frantic movement. The clip ended, leaving a nation of viewers with a single, damning impression. The guards, the last line of defense, had failed. The headlines wrote themselves with brutal efficiency. Frozen in fear? Security detail falters at Kirk event. The court of public opinion convened on social media platforms, delivering a swift and merciless verdict. No movement. Zero. They stood there like statues while people were in danger. Unbelievable. Complete amateur hour, read one typical post, garnering tens of thousands of likes. Another commenter seethed. This is what happens when ideology trumps competence. They were there for a photo op, not for real work. Yet, nestled within the torrent of outrage, were whispers of dissent, notes of discord that would later prove prophetic. I've watched the clip a dozen times, wrote one astute observer. Their posture right before the sound, it's not fear. It's focus. They were looking at something. Coordinating. Another questioned, why is the footage so short? Where are the other camera angles? This feels like we're being fed a narrative, not the truth. But these voices were drowned out by the roar of the crowd. The two guards, their identities protected, yet their professional reputations eviscerated, became the villains of the piece. They were the human error in a system designed for precision, the comforting explanation in a deeply unsettling event. The private security firm that employed them, West Shield Tactical, issued a statement expressing profound disappointment and promising a full internal review. They positioned themselves as the responsible adults cleaning up a mess. The public, for the most part, bought it. For Detective Emma Reed, a 12-year veteran with a reputation for doggedness, the official story felt like a suit that didn't quite fit. The pieces were there, but they refused to align. Stationed on the periphery of the main task force, she operated in the shadows of the investigation, her attention drawn to the inconsistencies everyone else seemed eager to gloss over. Her first point of contention was the viral clip itself. In her dimly lit office, a cave of case files and glowing monitors, she replayed the 23 seconds on a loop. She saw what the public saw, the pause, the chaos. But her trained eye also caught the micro-expressions. The guard on the left, his jaw tightening a split second before the pop. The other, his weight shifting subtly onto the balls of his feet, a fighter's stance. These were not signs of panic. They were the precursors to action. Her second, and far more significant, red flag was the evidence log. Among the cataloged items from the scene was an entry for an SD card from Camera 7B, a high-resolution unit mounted at the rear of the hall, offering a panoramic view of the stage and the complex lattice of lighting rigs above it. According to the log, it had been collected. But when she formally requested the footage, she was met with a wall of bureaucratic silence, followed by a heavily redacted report stating the card had been misfiled and was part of an ongoing, sensitive evidence review. A piece of critical evidence, from the one camera that could see everything, had simply vanished from the narrative. It was this resistance that convinced Reed she was on the right track. In her experience, truth rarely needed to hide. It was lies that required locked doors and blacked-out paragraphs. Her break came not through official channels, but from a silent ally deep within the digital forensics unit, a source who believed the truth was a public utility. An encrypted file arrived one evening, no subject, no message. Inside was the raw, unedited footage from the missing Camera 7B. Loading the file, Reed felt the familiar prickle of anticipation. The footage that filled her screen was starkly different from the grainy public clip. This was high definition, with crisp audio. She let it play. There was Charlie Kirk. There were the guards. The timestamp in the corner ticked forward. She saw the guards scanning the crowd, their movements professional, economical. Then she saw it. The guard on the left touched his earpiece, his head tilting almost imperceptibly. His lips moved, a silent command to his partner. The other guard nodded, his own hand moving to the butt of his concealed weapon. Their bodies turned in unison, not towards the crowd, but upwards and stage right, their focus pinpointed on a specific, shadow-draped section of the lighting rig. This was the 1.2 seconds that had been surgically removed from the viral clip. This was not hesitation. This was a coordinated threat assessment. Reed leaned closer, her breath catching. She isolated the audio, filtering out the crowd noise. There it was, a faint, muffled voice from the earpiece, barely audible. Potential contact, lighting rig, stage right looking, then the gunshot. But in this version, it was overlapped with the first, sharp shout of warning from one of the guards, a sound that had been digitally scrubbed from the public version. The guards exploded into motion, not away from the threat, but toward it, their bodies forming a protective shield in front of their principal, while their eyes remained locked on the rigging. The lie was now naked before her. The guards hadn't failed. They had been framed. Armed with the truth, Reed turned her investigation to the mechanism of the deceit. She submitted the viral clip and the raw 7B footage to a full forensic video analysis. The results were a damning indictment of deliberate manipulation. The technical report laid it out in cold, clinical detail. The viral clip contained a sophisticated jump cut, excising the crucial 1.2 seconds of the guard's reactive movement. The edit was seamless, the work of a professional who understood both technology and human psychology. By splicing the moment of assessment directly into the moment of panic, they had created the perfect illusion of paralysis. Furthermore, the audio analysis confirmed the gunshot had been isolated, lifted from another part of the recording, and reinserted as a clean, standalone sound. The guards shouted warnings, the rustle of their jackets as they moved. All of it was erased, creating an audio landscape of sudden shock followed by silent, damning inaction. The final, undeniable piece of the puzzle was the digital fingerprint. The metadata embedded in the viral video file traced its last save point directly to a server registered to West Shield Tactical. The same firm that had publicly thrown its own employees under the bus was the source of the manipulated footage that had convicted them in the public square. The question shifted from what happened to who orchestrated it. Reed began pulling the thread of West Shield's operations for the event. The official paperwork listed them as the primary security coordinator. But buried in a subcontractor agreement was a name that sent a chill down her spine: Aegis Solutions, hired for specialized lighting and rigging support. A cursory search for Aegis Solutions revealed a ghost. Its business registration led to a vacant lot. Its listed phone number was disconnected. The company, which had possessed unfettered, unsupervised access to the very section of the lighting rig where the hidden shooter had been positioned, was a corporate phantom. Reed's investigation now moved into dangerous territory. Every lead that pointed toward Aegis Solutions and West Shield Tactical's possible involvement seemed to hit a dead end. Witnesses from the event who had initially given statements about seeing movement in the rafters were suddenly unavailable for follow-up interviews. Their contact information, listed in the original reports, was now out of date. Formal data requests she filed for West Shield's financial records and other event contracts were returned marked denied. National security prerogative, a classification that seemed wildly out of place for a local criminal investigation. Key emails between her and fellow officers regarding the case were mysteriously deleted from the department's server. It was a silent, sophisticated campaign of erasure. It was as if a giant, invisible hand was smoothing over the surface of the investigation, removing any bump or flaw that hinted at a truth deeper than the official story. The two suspended guards, isolated and vilified, had gone completely dark, their families relocated under circumstances Reed could not determine. They had become unpersons in their own tragedy. The sheer scale of the cover-up suggested something far more significant than a simple corporate effort to avoid liability. This was not about covering up a failure, it was about concealing a success. The manipulation was too precise, the silencing too thorough. It pointed to an operation that had gone according to plan, a plan that required the guards to be scapegoated and the true origin of the threat to remain hidden. Who was the ghost in the lighting rig? Was the shooter a lone wolf, or part of a larger design? And most importantly, what was the true objective of an operation that required this level of digital deceit and institutional obstruction? The case remains officially open. The public narrative of the frozen guards still lingers in the minds of many, a testament to the power of a well-told lie. But the cracks are showing. The whispers are growing louder. The story of the UVU shooting is no longer a story about a moment of panic. It is a blueprint for modern deception. It reveals how truth can be re-engineered in a digital lab, how heroes can be transformed into villains with a few clicks of a mouse, and how the systems we trust to protect us can be weaponized to obscure reality. The footage from Camera 7B exists. The forensic analysis is complete. The trail, though cold, leads to West Shield Tactical and the ghost company, Aegis Solutions. But the walls of silence remain standing. Who authorized the edit? Who created Aegis Solutions? Where did the money come from? And what, or who, were they truly trying to hide in the shadows of those rafters? While the digital forensics and corporate scheming form the backbone of this mystery, at its heart are human beings whose lives were irrevocably altered. The two security guards, Mark Rios and Ben Carter, were not just faces in a blurred video, they were decorated veterans with over 20 years of combined experience in close protection. Colleagues described them as consummate professionals, known for their calm demeanors and almost preternatural situational awareness. In the days following the shooting, their world collapsed. Their faces, though officially blurred, were identified and plastered across extremist forums, accompanied by a torrent of threats so severe their families required immediate protection. The suspension from West Shield Tactical was not just a professional setback, it was a public branding of incompetence and cowardice. Ben Carter's wife, in a single, tearful interview before the family vanished from public view, stated, "He saved lives that night. I know he did. That's who he is. The man in that video, that's not my husband." Her words were a lone cry against a hurricane of condemnation. Friends and former military comrades who spoke out in their defense found their social media accounts flooded with bots and trolls accusing them of being part of a cover-up. The character assassination was swift, comprehensive, and devastatingly effective. The psychological toll of being simultaneously the victim of a violent event and the national poster children for failure is incalculable. Their current whereabouts are unknown, their careers in tatters, their reputations hostage to a lie they are powerless to confront. The technical manipulation of the footage reveals a level of sophistication that points to resources far beyond a simple PR cleanup. The analysis, conducted by an independent cybersecurity firm consulted by this outlet, detailed the process. The 1.2-second cut was not a crude chop, it was a frame-blended excision, where the removed frames are seamlessly replaced by algorithmically generated transitions that mimic motion blur, preventing the viewer's eye from detecting a jarring jump. This is not a function found in consumer editing software. It requires high-end, often proprietary, media forensics or military-grade manipulation tools. Furthermore, the audio isolation of the gunshot was equally meticulous. The original audio track contained a complex soundscape: the gunshot, the guard's shouts, the initial gasp of the crowd, the rustle of clothing, and the hum of the venue's HVAC system. The manipulated clip featured a clean gunshot, likely sourced from a sound library, which was then perfectly synced and layered with a blanket of crowd noise that was digitally applied after the fact to cover the edits. The analysis concluded that the audio mix in the viral clip was acoustically impossible, given the venue's layout and the position of the original microphones. The sonic environment presented to the public could not have occurred naturally, a ghost in the machine that betrayed the lie. The investigation into West Shield Tactical and Aegis Solutions revealed a corporate maze designed to obfuscate ownership and accountability. While West Shield presents a public image of a reputable, if beleaguered, security contractor, a deeper look into its corporate structure reveals a web of holding companies and offshore entities. Significant portions of its financing are channeled through a series of shell companies registered in the Cayman Islands, making a full audit of its financial backers impossible. Aegis Solutions, the ghost contractor, was even more ephemeral. Its digital footprint consisted of a basic, templated website that went live 3 weeks before the event and was taken down 48 hours after the shooting. The domain was registered through an anonymous service in Iceland. Payment for its services was traced to a wire transfer from a West Shield subsidiary, which in turn had received the funds from an untraceable cryptocurrency transaction. This was not mere incompetence. This was a premeditated structure for plausible deniability. The creation of Aegis Solutions, its hiring, and its subsequent dissolution all appear to be part of a pre-planned operational script designed to insert an asset, the shooter, and then erase all traces of its existence. Is the UVU event an isolated incident, or part of a broader, more disturbing pattern? A review of other high-profile, politically charged events over the past 5 years reveals several unsettling parallels. In 2 other cases, a gubernatorial rally in Texas and a university protest in Ohio, initial security camera footage that contradicted the dominant media narrative was similarly lost or corrupted. In both instances, edited cell phone clips, often from ambiguous angles, went viral and cemented a public perception that later proved to be inaccurate. While there is no direct evidence linking these events to West Shield Tactical, the modus operandi is consistent: the strategic use of digital manipulation to create a first impression that is nearly impossible to dislodge, even when the truth eventually emerges. This points to a new frontier of information warfare, where the battlefield is not the physical world, but the perceived reality of the public. The walls of silence are formidable, but they are not impenetrable. This investigation continues to follow several critical leads. Who was the individual seen in the lighting rig? Facial recognition analysis of the enhanced frame has so far yielded no matches in domestic databases, raising questions about whether the asset was imported specifically for this operation. What was the true purpose of the gunshot? Was it meant to assassinate, or merely to incite panic and create a crisis that could be exploited? The trajectory analysis confirms the shot was fired into an empty section of ceiling, suggesting the goal may have been chaos, not casualties. Most pressingly, who is the ultimate client? West Shield Tactical and its Ghost subsidiary, Aegis Solutions, are instruments, not architects. The sophistication and cost of this operation, from the skilled digital forgery to the corporate layering and the subsequent institutional stonewalling, suggest a powerful patron with significant resources and a clear strategic objective: to undermine public trust in private security, to destabilize political discourse, or to test new methods of narrative control. This is the central, terrifying mystery that remains. This investigation is ongoing. New leads are emerging even now, and the next revelation could break at any moment. We are committed to following this trail, no matter where it leads. The search for the truth is relentless, but we cannot do it alone. The story of Mark Rios and Ben Carter cannot end with them as forgotten casualties of a digital lie. The integrity of our public discourse depends on exposing those who would weaponize it. If you believe in uncovering the truth, then you need to be here when it happens. We are closer than ever to a breakthrough. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. The next report could change everything. This story is far from over.